Shalom, ladies, and welcome to Coffee and Connection, week 43. I'm excited to be here with all of you today. I apologize for the glare off my glasses. I have a crazy pressure headache all day and wearing glasses, which I don't usually wear when I'm like, unless I'm like doing like spreadsheets on my computer. It's usually gives me some relief. So that's why I know there's like this green light. I don't even know where it's coming from, like glaring off my glasses. So thank you for dealing with that. So I really wanted to talk about this amazing topic because it's really honestly in my programs, it's one of the most asked questions that I get. Like it'll just keep coming up over and over because, like we talked about last week, like those recurring issues. So it's one of those things that no matter how many times we know it's okay, when it happens, it can still kind of like throw us off. Like, wait, really? Like, should I just give you this space? Wait, really? This isn't about me. It's really hard to really stay present to the reality of what we're going to talk about today. So I really wanted to talk about it. And also because I want to share a funny story that happened last night. So Baruch Hashem, we went to a wedding, a real wedding. It was so nice. Baruch Hashem, I don't think I've been in like a wedding, in like a long time. And as we were leaving the wedding, there was a woman who was there with her husband, and she came up to us and she said, "I want to." She said she knew my husband. I think he taught her in a program or something, and she said, "I want to introduce you to my husband." And she said, "I'll never forget that when I was engaged, I came up to you and I asked you, what's the best advice that you could give me in my marriage. And you said to me, and I'll never forget this, you said to me, give him space." She's like, "He was at the wine festival." He's like, "Oh, yeah, that's the best place to get good advice from me, right?" So, and that's what he said to her. She's like, "Yeah." And then he said to the husband, like, "Oh, you're welcome." So this is such an important topic. It's so important to remember that in a relationship, when we get married because we want closeness, we want connection, we want to not be alone, right? And sometimes that can be interpreted in our own minds as we will now always be together. We will now always do everything together. We will now always want to spend every waking moment together. Every free moment will be a moment that we will be together. And it's like this like blissful idea. And then what happens is that life happens and reality kicks in. And that reality is that as much as we want connection, and I would even say because we want connection, we also have our own selves that we need to take care of. We have our own independence. We have our own likes. We have our own interests, our own friends. And sometimes we make that mistake. I don't know if you did. I made this mistake when I was first married, thinking that now that we're married, we're going to do all of that together, right? So we got together with all of our friends together. If you don't like chocolate ice cream, I don't like chocolate ice cream, right? I forgot for like 10 years that I actually like chocolate ice cream. Everything was always like, well, we should do it together. And first of all, a separate topic, we could talk about why it's so important to maintain our own independence in that same way. What also happens is that women suddenly get that shock or that pain of my husband suddenly wants to spend time without me. Let me just close all my windows because the fact that why is my husband pulling away from me? Why does he want to do things without me? Why is he so more? Why is he suddenly not even telling me where he's going? Sometimes it's not even a physical pulling away. It's an emotional, like he's just not engaging with me. He's not talking to me. I say, "What's up?" And he says nothing. And, he goes and he locks himself in his room and like in our room, right? And like, what is going on? Or he goes downstairs and he just, wants to sit and I don't even know what he's doing, right? What is that? And many very often when that happens is that we make it mean that there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with the relationship. Or we think that as the good wife, we should do what we would do if our friend was acting that way, right? We'd want to show if our friend was like, I'm going somewhere, we'd be like, oh, where are you going? Tell me about it. How was it? Right? Give me all the details. Or if our friend looks like they're in a bad mood, we'd be like, what's up? You want to talk about it? I'm here. What's going on? Something happened today. And we ask a ton of questions. They're like, no, I just want to be by myself. And we're like, oh, let me come sit with you and rub your back, right? Because that's what we do, right? That's the feminine way generally of dealing with issues. And so we may try to do that and then only get further and further pushed away. And this can be so hurtful, right? Because number one, we're doing what we would generally do, and we're being, like pushed away from giving and connecting the way we want to connect, the way we think we're being helpful to connect. And it can make us feel like there must be something wrong. There must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with you. There must be something wrong with us. Why aren't you connecting with me? Why do you want your space? Why aren't you telling me where you're going? Right? And it can be very painful. And like the essence of it is like my husband was saying, give him space. Men really need space. They don't connect. They don't have that same feeling of we need to always, talk about everything. And, that's not how they deal with their stress. And men actually need to, this is a really big chiddush that for most women to realize that whereas women work things out by talking about it together with other people, men usually will not share what's going on for them until they've worked it through. They like to be on their own, like in their cave, right? Trying to figure it out for themselves. And they will only share it either when they fully figured it out or when they want help. But then they will specifically ask for that help. Okay. And so that might be if he's, dealing with his stuff, it's actually important to give him the space to deal with it, to work it through and figure out what he wants to do about the problem. Now, a lot of that time, that problem has absolutely nothing to do with you. It could be a problem he's having at work, a problem he has to figure out for himself what he wants, a financial issue. It could be, a million different things. And we always make it mean something about me, right? Did I do something? Did I upset you? But most of the time, it has nothing to do with us. And you might say, but I want to know what the problem is. And that makes sense, right? We are interested women, right? We like to know what's going on. And what's important to do in that moment is to really give him that space, that trust to work through it on his own. And here's the thing, a lot of times when men don't share their problems with women, and even include here when it is about us. Okay, so every once in a while, he may be upset about something with you. He may be disappointed in something. He may be processing something. He may be mad about something. Or like we say, he may be dealing with something financial or something at work or something in his own life with family, who knows what, right? Many times, the reason he's not sharing it with you until he figures it out or until he works through it on his own is because he doesn't want to hurt you. And when we get all up in his face, like, tell me what's wrong, what's wrong? It's like we're egging him on to start that fight or to worry us, to tell us and get us worried when really his intention was, I don't want to I don't want to fight about this, or I don't want to burden you with this. I don't want this to become an issue. I'm going to let me deal with it, and I'll only tell you if I need to, because he wants to avoid that conflict. He's trying to protect and be like your knight in shining armor in some ways, but also just, you ever have that moment? I just invite you to consider a moment where you're like kind of frustrated with your husband. Maybe something he did bothered you, every once in a while. Maybe you're just really tired or you're really anxious about something and you don't want to talk about it. You just want to work it through. You want to go to sleep. You want to talk to your friend. You want to just message your coach. Like you just don't want to take it to your husband or say it because you're going to end up saying something that you're going to regret, something you really don't want to say. And if in that moment your husband comes to you and is like, "What's wrong? Are you okay? Tell me, tell me, tell me." And you're going to be like, "Okay, it seems like he wants me to tell him. I'll tell him." And then, exactly what you didn't want to happen ends up happening, right? So if you can, you know, just put yourself in that position, it can really help you to understand why sometimes men, want to figure things out on their own. Even if it doesn't sound coupley, it may actually be very coupley because it's coming from this intention of, I don't want to create this tension, or I don't want to worry her, or I don't want to start a fight. Let me deal with my feelings. Let me deal with my problems, with my stress. And, I can tell her when I've worked it out, or I won't even need to because I'll have worked through it. Another really important thing to consider, and this one is really important, and this is one of the very important points that is made in John Gray's Men Are From Mars, where he talks about how last week we talked about how women are like waves, right? And they have to go up, they have to crash down to the bottom, right? We got to get all emotional about our stuff to be able to go back up. Well, he says men are kind of like rubber bands. So to explain this rubber band, before I do, I want to, to kind of get context for it. If you feel at any point like maybe your relationship is missing some excitement, or you feel like your husband isn't excited to come home and spend time with you, or you feel like you're always kind of like you have to be the one to initiate the connection, the relationship. You're always kind of going after him. He explains that that is the result of not allowing our husbands to be rubber bands. So what does it mean that men are like rubber bands? I want you to picture that like, you're standing here. I'm trying to think of like, you're standing here, and I don't think I have an elastic in here, but that would be really, really helpful. But imagine that like, there's like a rubber band here, okay? And what we want is, there's me and there's my husband, and we want here two things, right? Two people. And imagine there's a rubber band between them. And what we want is that this rubber band is connected, it's together, right? But he says that what happens is that sometimes after a lot of togetherness, men feel kind of like some of the excitement isn't there, right? They need excitement. How do men create more intimacy and excitement and anticipation and desire? He says that they need to kind of pull away. They need to pull away a little. They need their space, right? They need to go do their thing. And once they pull away and you give them, and once they pull away, they pull away, they pull away. At a certain point, what happens to the elastic? It's pulled as tight as it can go, and boop, he snaps back. He's excited to come back to you. He's excited to be home with you. He's excited to talk to you. He's excited to spend time with you. Now, what often happens though is that he feels subconsciously he needs to pull away, and we're like, "Where are you going? What's going on? How you doing? Can I come with you? Where are you going? You know what? I'll call you and text beep beep. Where are you? When are you coming home?" And so what happens? He's looking to create that stretch that's going to allow him to snap back, and we're keeping it loose because we're following them. We're it's like that feeling. If you ever had that feeling of I'm chasing my husband, and then what happens is that he never gets to have that tightness that allows him to snap back. And that's where he says men can start to feel depressed. They can start to feel because they feel like they're losing themselves. They don't have the same attraction and excitement. And so it becomes really important to realize that when a man is kind of pulling away. It may feel like he's pulling away from you. And oh no, what does that mean about our relationship? And what does that mean? You don't love me, you don't care about. No, it's actually for it helps the relationship to give him his space. And it's an amazing thing when you hear men speak. Just recently, I got to kind of ask this question. I was on a retreat with my coach. It was amazing. It's every year. I used to go to Florida for it. Now it's online. So it was just this weekend. It was incredible. And one of the things that they do is they bring in their husbands and they let you can ask them questions. And I asked the question, not just about how can you create excitement. I said, even what's even the best way to show appreciation? Because one of the questions I get from my clients is this question of, I say thank you to my husband, but he just pushes off the thank you. How do I really show him that I appreciate him? Right. And the answer they gave was respect. The more you want to show, if you want to show your husband appreciation, really it's about respecting him and respecting his need for space, respecting his need to do things in his own way, in what works for him. So if I want to thank, my husband for being with the kids, I want to thank my husband for you know unloading the dishwasher, I want to thank my husband for just doing his thing, then the best thing I can do is when I come out, when we switch and I come out, is to, like, when he says, oh, I'm going to go for a walk, to be like, great, right? Go for that walk. Take your space. Because when we try to keep them close all the time, they can actually end up feeling stifled. We end up losing, right? If we really want our husbands to feel excited to be home and excited to be with us and to have that connection, that closeness that we're looking for when we're chasing them, then actually the best thing to do is to give them that space to do things on their own, to have their own interests, to have their own desires, to have the own things that they want to do, even when, or especially when, it's different than what you want to do, right? It's not what you're interested in. And even to be appreciative of that. Like, it's not like, oh, he's going to hockey, or, oh, he's going to his chabura, or, oh, he's going to see his friend. It's like, yay, great, amazing. Right? A lot of women have found that the more they give their husbands to do their self-care, the more they give their husbands to have their space to do their stuff, the better it is for their relationship, right? The more connection they end up having, because their husband has that space to be himself, which then can allow him to come home happier and more connected. But again, not from a place of, control of like, oh, I want you to be happy, so go. But like, I really genuinely want you to be happy. So when we go back to those questions of, why is my husband pulling away? Is he mad at me? What's going on? This is where we can remind ourselves over and over that very likely he's not mad at you. And even if he is mad at you, he wants to work it out. He wants to figure it out. We all get mad at our spouse sometimes, right? It's okay. We have to, this is another topic, is like that acceptance of like, we're not all going to be perfect for each other, right? I'm not going to be a perfect spouse to you. You're not going to be a perfect spouse for me. That's okay, right? Letting go of that, that fear of, I'm not going to, I can't believe there's something he's mad at me about. And remembering that most likely it's not even about you. And when he wants that space, it doesn't mean that he doesn't love you or care about you or value the relationship. Taking that space is what allows the relationship to thrive. It's what allows there to be more passion and connection and excitement, because he knows, right? This is always such an important thing to remember. The more we feel the freedom, the more we know we can choose something, the more we want to do it, right? The more I know that I can go out whenever I want, right? The more I may be excited to stay home. The more I know that, hey, anytime I need a break, I can sit on the couch, have a cup of coffee, do self-care, take care of myself. The more I know that I have the permission to do that, I'm not judging myself every minute. I'm not worrying about how other people are going to judge me. The more I'm actually going to feel inspired to get stuff done because I know that when I want to sit, I can, right? The more he knows that he has the ability to go out and he's not going to be bothered about it. He's not going to be hounded and by a million questions, and no one's going to get mad at him for doing his thing. Just like we want to have our space to do our own thing too, right, ladies? The more he has that space and he knows that he, when he comes home, it's going to be a positive experience because no one's angry at him for taking that space. And we're just happy to see him, the more that we can, the more that he then wants to come home. Now, sometimes what this brings up in women, and I'll just touch on this for a moment, what this brings up in women is, but that's not fair. I don't have my space. What about my interests? What about my desires? What about the fact that I want to go out for a walk? I want to go out with the girls. I want to go to a dance class or an exercise class. I want to be able to go on Coffee and Connection without having like all these, other kids on top of me. Whatever that is, whenever we're starting to feel resentful of our husbands taking their self-care, taking their space, it generally means that we are not giving ourselves permission to do the same, because that's when resentment shows up, right? Resentment is almost always happening because, hey, why do you get to do that and I don't? But who says I can't, right? And often the very first step is that we need to give ourselves permission to take that self-care. We need to give ourselves permission to have our interests and our desire to spend time on our own, to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to go into the room and close the door and watch what I want to watch, right? I'm going to go on a walk by myself. I'm going to go to that exercise class. And it's okay for me to give myself permission to do things on my own time. That can make it much easier to let go of that feeling of, yeah, but that's, the not fair resentment, what about me kind of thing. Okay. So it's really quiet on the chat today. I don't see any questions, any comments. I hope you're relating to what I'm saying. Thank you. Now I got a message that it was another great class. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. If anyone has any questions or comments, separate questions you want me to answer on a later week, I'd be happy to receive those questions. And it's so great to see all of you. Let me go to gallery view for a second and see who's coming up on camera. So good to see Shira and Leora and Rachel's here. Amazing. Good to see you all and all the names I see also. I'm always happy to see you here, and everyone listening to the replay. Amazing. Kol Kavod for doing that. And I look forward to seeing you again all next week. And until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.